Every global brand has a beginning. Some start in towering office buildings with millions of dollars in funding, while others begin with teams of experienced executives and powerful investors. But Nike, one of the most recognizable brands in the world, started with something much simpler: a young man, the trunk of a car, and a dream that almost everyone thought was impossible. Long before the famous Swoosh logo appeared on billions of shoes and jerseys around the world, Phil Knight was just a college student with a passion for running. Born in Portland, Oregon in 1938, Phil wasn't the fastest runner on his track team, but he loved the sport and was fascinated by the equipment athletes used. While studying at the University of Oregon, he trained under legendary track coach Bill Bowerman, a man who constantly searched for ways to make running shoes lighter, faster, and more comfortable. Bowerman wasn't satisfied with the shoes available at the time and often experimented with new designs, believing that even the smallest improvement could help athletes perform better. Those conversations between coach and student would later change the sports industry forever. After graduating, Phil served in the U.S. Army before earning an MBA at Stanford University. It was there that he wrote a business paper based on a simple but ambitious idea: what if high-quality running shoes made in Japan could compete with the expensive German brands? That dominated the market, especially Adidas. Most people saw it as nothing more than a classroom assignment, but Phil couldn't stop thinking about it. Instead of leaving the idea on paper, he decided to test it in the real world. In 1962, he traveled to Japan, where he visited Onitsuka Co., the maker of Tiger running shoes. Although he had no established company and very little business experience, Phil convinced the executives that he wanted to distribute their shoes in the United States. The meeting was a turning point in his life. Onitsuka agreed to send him shoes, giving him the opportunity he had been searching for. When Phil returned to America, he teamed up with his former coach, Bill Bowerman, and together they founded a small business called Blue Ribbon Sports in 1964. They started with just a few $100s each, operating without fancy offices or large warehouses. Phil worked as an accountant during the day to pay the bills, while building the business whenever he could. The company's earliest sales didn't happen in expensive retail stores. Instead, Phil loaded boxes of running shoes into the trunk of his green Plymouth Valiant and drove to track meets across the Pacific Northwest, selling directly to athletes one pair at a time. He wasn't just trying to make sales. He listened carefully to runners, learning what they liked, what they disliked, and what they wished their shoes could do better. Every conversation helped shape the future of the company. Meanwhile, Bowerman continued experimenting with shoe designs. He believed runners deserved something lighter and faster than anything currently available. His relentless curiosity led him to test countless materials and ideas, often taking apart existing shoes to understand how they could be improved. The partnership between Knight's business instincts and Bowerman's creativity proved incredibly powerful. As Blue Ribbon Sports slowly grew, so did the challenges. The company depended heavily on its relationship with Onitsuka, but disagreements over distribution and the future of the business became more frequent. Phil realized that if Blue Ribbon Sports wanted to survive, it couldn't spend its entire future selling someone else's products. It needed its own identity. Around that time, one of the company's early employees, Jeff Johnson, suggested a new name, Nike, inspired by the Greek goddess of victory. At first, Phil wasn't convinced, but time was running out. New shoes were ready to be manufactured, and the company needed a brand name immediately. Nike was chosen almost at the last moment, a decision that would eventually become one of the most famous names in history. But the new name also needed a logo. Phil asked Carolyn Davidson, a graphic design student at Portland State University, to create one. After several attempts, she designed a simple curved check mark meant to represent movement and speed. Phil admitted that he wasn't completely convinced by the design at first, but deadlines forced a decision, and he accepted it, paying her just $35 for her work. Decades later, That logo would become one of the most recognizable symbols on Earth, and in recognition of her contribution, Phil later gave Davidson Nike stock and a gold ring featuring the swoosh. Even with a new name and logo, Nike's future was far from secure. The young company struggled with cash flow almost constantly. Banks were hesitant to lend money, suppliers demanded payments, and rapid growth created financial pressure instead of comfort. More than once, Phil feared the company might collapse before it ever had the chance to succeed. Yet every obstacle strengthened his determination rather than weakening it. Instead of cutting back on innovation, Nike continued searching for better ways to help athletes perform. One morning, while eating breakfast with his wife, Bill Bowerman looked at the waffle iron sitting on the kitchen table and had an unusual idea. What if the same grit pattern could be used on the bottom of a running shoe to improve traction while keeping it lightweight? He poured rubber into the waffle iron to test the concept, accidentally ruining the appliance, but creating the foundation for Nike's revolutionary waffle sole. That simple experiment became one of the company's greatest innovations, helping Nike stand out in an increasingly competitive market. Slowly but surely, more runners began choosing Nike shoes. Coaches recommended them, athletes trusted them, and the small company that had once sold shoes from the trunk of a car was finally beginning to earn recognition across America. But just as Nike started finding its place in the sports world, an opportunity unlike anything Phil Knight had ever imagined was about to appear. A young basketball player named Michael Jordan was preparing to enter the NBA, and one decision made by both the athlete and the company would forever change the future of Nike. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe.